The massive alien vessel hovered silently above Earth's atmosphere, its dark hull absorbing what little starlight reached it. Inside, Commander Red of the Stellar Federation paced back and forth, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence as he reviewed the latest reports from his science team. "Sir," his second-in-command, Officer Blue, interrupted his thoughts. "The preliminary scans of the primitive planet are complete. We've identified their weakest points, their offspring." Red's upper lip curled in disgust. "And you're certain these children will give us leverage over the humans?" "Absolutely, sir. Our research shows humans are extremely protective of their young. One captured child would be enough to control an entire city." The commander stopped his pacing and stared out the viewing port at the blue planet below. The humans had rejected the Stellar Federation's offer of protection, a thinly veiled attempt at colonization. Their defiance was unexpected from such a technologically inferior species. But what truly shocked the Federation was humanity's military response. Despite their primitive weapons, they had somehow managed to destroy 3 Federation scout ships. It was unprecedented and embarrassing. "Very well," Red finally spoke. "Prepare the capture pods. We'll start with a small town to test their response. Choose somewhere isolated, somewhere in what they call Montana." In the quiet town of Pine Creek, Montana, 12-year-old Tom Miller couldn't sleep. The summer night was too hot, and strange lights kept flashing across his bedroom ceiling. He got up to look out his window, expecting to see heat lightning. Instead, he saw something that made his blood run cold. Silvery, egg-shaped pods were descending from the sky, each about the size of a car. They moved with deliberate precision, spreading out across the sleeping town. One was heading straight for his house. Tom didn't waste time. He'd read enough science fiction books to know this wasn't good. He grabbed his emergency backpack, the one his dad insisted he keep packed after all those alien ships showed up last month, and ran to his little sister's room. "Annie, wake up," he whispered urgently, shaking her shoulder. "We need to go to the basement. Now." His 8-year-old sister blinked sleepily but didn't argue. Their parents had drilled them on this: if anything strange happened, get to the basement shelter. Don't wait, don't ask questions. They were halfway down the basement stairs when they heard it, a horrible screeching sound, like metal being torn apart. The whole house shook. Annie whimpered, but Tom kept them moving. What the aliens didn't know, what they couldn't have known, was that humanity had been preparing. Ever since the first Federation ships appeared, governments worldwide had been quietly distributing emergency protocols and equipment. Every town had a plan. Every family had a shelter. Every child knew what to do. The aliens thought they were targeting humanity's weakness. Instead, they were about to learn a harsh lesson about humanity's greatest strength, the lengths they would go to protect their own. As Tom and Annie huddled in their reinforced basement shelter, the emergency radio crackled to life. All across Pine Creek, similar scenes were playing out. Children were running to safety, parents were activating defense systems, and a very angry town was about to show the aliens exactly why taking human children was the worst mistake they could make. Commander Red was about to learn that on Earth, targeting children didn't create leverage. It created fury. The first capture pod landed in the Millers' front yard with a heavy thud. Inside their basement shelter, Tom held his sister close as they listened to the heavy metallic footsteps above. Their parents should have been home from their night shift at the town's emergency response center hours ago. Now he understood why they hadn't returned. Emergency broadcast update, the radio crackled. All Pine Creek residents, Protocol 7 is now active. Repeat, Protocol 7 is active. Tom's heart raced. Protocol 7 was the one they'd practiced but hoped they'd never need. He pulled out his emergency tablet and powered it on, watching as it connected to the town's secure network. Above ground, 3 tall figures emerged from the capture pod. They wore sleek armor that seemed to absorb light, making them look like moving shadows. Their four-eyed helmets scanned the house methodically. Life signs detected, one alien reported, its translated voice sounding mechanical. 2 juvenile humans in the lower section of the dwelling. Proceed with extraction, came the response. Remember, minimal damage to the specimens. What they didn't notice was the slight shimmer in the air around them, microscopic drones, thousands of them, recording and transmitting everything back to the town's emergency center. In that center, Jane Miller watched the footage with cold fury as aliens approached her home. Around her, other parents and town officials coordinated their response. Screens showed similar scenes playing out across Pine Creek, alien pods landing, troops deploying, all following the same pattern. "They're taking the bait," Chief Rogers announced. "Every single pod is targeting locations with child signatures. Just like we planned." Jane nodded grimly. After the Federation's first contact, Earth's scientists had worked tirelessly to understand their technology. They discovered that alien sensors could be fooled, and now every basement shelter in Pine Creek was broadcasting false child signatures, while the real children were safely hidden behind sensor-proof shielding. The aliens were walking into a trap. Back in the basement, Tom accessed the town's defense grid through his tablet. Years of playing video games had prepared him for this moment. Each house in Pine Creek had been fitted with automated defense systems, and children had been trained to help operate them, disguising the training as a popular online game. "Ready, Annie?" he whispered. His sister nodded, her small hands steady on her own tablet. The aliens had just reached the basement door when all hell broke loose. Across Pine Creek, dozens of capture pods suddenly found themselves trapped by rapidly deploying containment fields, technology reverse-engineered from the Federation's own ships. Inside each house, defense systems activated with children like Tom and Annie helping to coordinate the response. Commander Red watched in growing horror as pod after pod went dark. "What's happening down there?" he demanded. Officer Blue's hands flew over the control panel. "Sir, we're detecting energy signatures we didn't pick up before. The humans, they're using our own technology against us." "Impossible." Red slammed his fist down. "They're primitives. They can't possibly." He was cut off by a new signal breaking through their communications. The face of a human appeared on their main screen, Jane Miller, though they didn't know her name. "This is Pine Creek Emergency Response," she said, her voice cold and clear. "You targeted our children. That was your first and last mistake. You have 10 minutes to recall your forces, or we'll show you exactly what happens to anyone who threatens our kids." As if to emphasize her point, another capture pod went dark. The aliens had wanted to use human children as leverage. Instead, they discovered that humanity's greatest weakness was actually its greatest strength, and they were about to learn just how far parents would go to protect their young. Commander Red's facial scales darkened with rage as he watched more capture pods go dark on his command screen. The humans weren't just defending themselves, they were winning. His 4 eyes narrowed as he made a decision that would haunt him forever. "Launch the secondary attack wave," he ordered. "If we can't capture their young, we'll force their surrender another way." Officer Blue hesitated. "Sir, that would violate multiple Federation laws about." "Do it." Red slammed his fist down again. "I will not be humiliated by primitives." Down in Pine Creek, Jane Miller watched with grim satisfaction as the alien forces fell into disarray. But her victory was short-lived. New alerts flashed across her screens as larger ships descended from the mother vessel. "They're launching combat units." Chief Rogers shouted. "Everyone to secondary positions." In the basement shelter, Tom and Annie's tablets suddenly displayed new instructions. The brother and sister looked at each other with determined expressions. They'd practiced this too. "Remember the game levels, Annie?" Tom asked as he typed in commands. The ones with the big bad guys? Annie nodded, her fingers flying over her own screen. The ones where we had to work together with other players to win? Exactly. Only this time, we're playing for real. Across Pine Creek, other children were doing the same thing. What the aliens didn't know was that Earth's scientists hadn't just reverse-engineered their technology, they'd simplified it so even children could help operate it. Every video game, every online competition had been preparation for this moment. The combat ships opened fire, expecting to find helpless humans cowering in fear. Instead, their shots dissipated harmlessly against shield technology stolen from their own designs. And then Pine Creek fought back. Houses that had appeared ordinary suddenly transformed, weapon systems emerging from hidden panels. The town's water tower split open, revealing a massive energy cannon. Even the children's playground equipment morphed into defensive positions. Tom coordinated with other kids through their secure network, each of them managing different defense systems. Annie's tablet showed the shield grid, her job was to redirect power where it was needed most. Together, they were part of a complex defense network that spanned the entire town. In the command center, Jane allowed herself a small smile as she watched her children's usernames appear in the coordination system. They were scared, she knew, but they were brave. They were ready. "Let's show them what happens when they threaten our families," she announced over the town's communication network. "Execute Pattern Delta." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Every piece of Federation technology that humans had stolen and modified over the past months activated at once. Energy weapons fired from seemingly innocent buildings. Capture pods that had gone dark suddenly reactivated, now under human control, and turned against their former masters. Commander Red watched in horror as his combat ships began to fall. Impossible. Their technology level, they couldn't have, they shouldn't be able. "Sir." Officer Blue's voice was urgent. "We're detecting similar energy signatures activating across the planet." Pine Creek, it wasn't an isolated target. It was a test site. On their main screen, Jane Miller's face appeared again. Behind her, they could see other humans coordinating what was clearly a global response. "I warned you," she said calmly. "Now let me introduce you to Earth's real defensive network. You see, while you were focusing on our children, trying to find ways to hurt them." She paused, her eyes hard. "We were teaching them how to hurt you back." As if to emphasize her point, 3 more combat ships went dark. And in orbit, red sensors began detecting new energy signatures activating all around the planet. Humanity hadn't just been preparing one town. They'd been preparing the entire world. Commander Red's massive ship shuddered as another blast struck its shields. Around the globe, defense systems were activating in patterns his tactical computers couldn't predict. Every time they thought they'd identified the human's command center, it would shift, appearing somewhere else entirely. "Sir," Officer Blue's voice cracked with stress, "we're receiving reports from our other ships. The humans are using some kind of distributed defense network. Every town, every city, they're all connected." In Pine Creek's command center, Jane Miller coordinated with military bases across the country. Screens showed similar scenes playing out worldwide, Federation ships finding themselves outmaneuvered by the very technology they'd thought humans were too primitive to understand. "Mom." Tom's voice came through her headset. "We've got incoming on Grid 7. Jane checked her displays. 3 more combat ships were descending toward Pine Creek, likely hoping to overwhelm the town's defenses. But they didn't know about humanity's secret weapon, their children's ability to think creatively and adapt quickly. "All junior operators," she broadcast across the secure network, "implement Battle Plan Omega. Just like in the games, kids. Show them what you can do." In basements across Pine Creek, children who had spent countless hours playing what they thought were video games sprang into action. Their tablets and gaming systems, actually sophisticated battle computers, lit up with real combat data. Tom and Annie coordinated with other kids their age, their fingers flying across their screens. The gaming interfaces they'd mastered now controlled actual defense systems, their countless hours of practice paying off in ways the aliens never expected. "Remember the boss-level strategy?" Tom called out to the network. Other kids responded with enthusiasm, recognizing the pattern they'd practiced hundreds of times in their games. Annie managed the shield grid masterfully, redirecting power just before each alien blast hit. Other children coordinated weapon systems, each playing their part in a complex defense strategy that looked chaotic to the aliens but made perfect sense to the kids who had grown up playing these games. Above the planet, Commander Red was facing a harsh reality. His ship's advanced sensors were being fooled by technology that shouldn't exist on Earth. Every time they adapted their tactics, the humans changed their patterns in ways that seemed random but were devastatingly effective. They're using their children to control the defense systems. Officer Blue finally realized, his scales paling. That's why we can't predict their patterns. Their young ones don't think like our tactical computers. Red's command ship rocked with another impact. That's impossible. Their offspring are untrained. They can't possibly. Sir, another officer interrupted, we're detecting transmissions from Earth to our home worlds. They're broadcasting our defeats. Showing how their children are beating our best warriors. In the basement shelter, Tom and Annie had just coordinated a particularly complex defense pattern with kids from 3 other continents. Their tablets showed the results, another alien ship disabled, its crew retreating in escape pods. "Hey Annie," Tom grinned at his sister, "remember when Mom and Dad said too many video games would rot our brains?" Annie giggled as she redirected shield power to protect a group of kids in Australia. "I guess they changed their minds." In the command center, Jane watched with pride as her children coordinated with others around the world. What the Federation had failed to understand was that Earth's children weren't just their weakness, they were humanity's greatest asset. Their creativity, their adaptability, their ability to see patterns adults might miss, all carefully nurtured through years of disguised training. "Attention Federation forces," she broadcast on all frequencies. "You came here thinking our children were vulnerable. That they would be easy targets. Instead, they're the ones teaching you a lesson. Would you like to surrender now, or should we let them keep playing?" Commander Red stared at his tactical display in disbelief as more ships went dark. They had come to use human children as leverage. Instead, those same children were systematically dismantling the most powerful fleet in the Federation. Commander Red's last shred of composure shattered as he watched his mighty fleet fall apart. In his rage, he made a decision that would seal the Federation's fate. "Prepare the planetary intimidator," he growled. "If we can't capture their young, we'll make an example of this town. Show them what happens when they defy the Federation." Officer Blue's scales went completely pale. "Sir, the intimidator is forbidden by galactic law. Its use against developing worlds." "I don't care about laws." Red roared. "I want these humans to suffer." In Pine Creek's command center, Jane's screens suddenly lit up with urgent warnings. The massive alien mothership was opening up, revealing a weapon that made every sensor scream in alarm. "All units, this is a code black," she broadcast worldwide. "They're deploying a Planet Killer class weapon. All children to deep shelter positions immediately." Tom and Annie's tablets flashed with red warnings. They knew what code black meant, they'd trained for this too, though everyone had hoped it would never happen. "Time to show them our secret weapon, sis," Tom said, pulling up a special interface on his tablet. Annie nodded, doing the same. Around the world, other children accessed similar systems. What the Federation didn't know was that Earth's scientists hadn't just copied their technology, they'd improved it. And the key to those improvements came from an unexpected source, children's imagination. All junior operators, Jane's voice came through clear and calm, initiate protocol Rainbow. Just like in the simulator. Remember, this is what all those special creative levels were preparing you for. The alien ship's massive weapon began to charge, its energy readings going off the scale. Commander Red watched with savage satisfaction, certain that this display of power would finally break the humans' will. But down in their shelter, Tom and Annie were ready. Their tablets displayed an interface that looked like an advanced art program, something they'd played with for months, thinking it was just a fun creativity game. "Remember how we designed those energy patterns, Annie?" Tom asked as his fingers traced complex designs on his screen. How the grown-ups said there was no wrong way to do it. Annie nodded, her own fingers dancing across her tablet. "They said our imagination made the pattern stronger. What the Federation could never understand was that their rigid, mathematical approach to energy manipulation had limitations. But human children, with their unlimited imagination and ability to think in ways that defied conventional logic, had discovered patterns that shouldn't have been possible." Around the world, thousands of children were drawing similar patterns, each unique, each impossible according to standard physics. Their designs flowed together through the global network, creating something entirely new. Commander Red's moment of triumph turned to confusion as his sensors detected strange energy patterns emerging from Earth. They made no sense, they couldn't exist according to any known science. "Sir." Officer Blue's voice was filled with panic. "The energy patterns, they're rewriting local space-time. Our weapons can't." The planetary intimidator fired, its beam of destructive energy lancing down toward Pine Creek. But it never reached its target. Instead, it encountered a barrier made of thousands of children's imagination given form through advanced technology. The beam didn't just stop, it transformed. The destructive energy was caught in the impossible patterns created by Earth's children, twisted and reformed by their unlimited creativity. In the command center, Jane watched with fierce pride as the Federation's ultimate weapon was undone by the power of children's imagination. The very thing that made children vulnerable, their ability to believe in the impossible, had become humanity's greatest defense. "What you're seeing," she broadcast to the increasingly panicked alien fleet, "is what happens when you combine advanced technology with unlimited imagination. Our children don't just think outside the box, they don't believe in boxes at all." Commander Red could only watch in horror as his ultimate weapon was transformed by patterns that defied reality itself. The humans hadn't just prepared their children to fight, they'd weaponized the very essence of childhood itself. The transformed energy from the planetary intimidator swirled in impossible patterns above Earth, a testament to the power of children's imagination made real. But Commander Red wasn't finished yet. In his desperation, he prepared to make one final, fatal mistake. "Launch all remaining ships," he ordered, his voice cracking with rage. "Target every population center. We'll show them what happens when they resist the Federation." Officer Blue stepped forward, his scales shifting to a deep blue of determination. "No, sir. I cannot allow this." Around the bridge, other officers stood up from their stations. The brutal attack on human children had already crossed too many lines. This would be genocide. In Pine Creek's command center, Jane watched the power struggle unfolding on the alien ship through their surveillance drones. She keyed her microphone, "All junior operators, stand by. The enemy is having a leadership disagreement." Tom and Annie, still maintaining their creative energy patterns through their tablets, exchanged knowing looks. They'd seen this before, in their games, when the alien commander would go too far and their own forces would turn against them. "Mom," Tom called through the communication system, "remember the Unity protocol from level 50? Jane's eyes widened. Level 50 had been one of the most sophisticated simulation programs, teaching children how to turn enemies into allies. At the time, it had seemed like an oddly specific scenario. All junior operators, she broadcast globally, implement Unity Protocol. Show them what humanity's children really stand for. In shelters across the world, children began modifying their energy patterns. The swirling designs above Earth shifted, changed, becoming something entirely new. Instead of just blocking the alien weapons, they began broadcasting something else: emotions, memories, hopes, and dreams. Thanks to the Federation's own translation technology, every alien in the fleet could suddenly feel what Earth's children were sharing. They saw themselves through human children's eyes, not as monsters, but as potential friends who had lost their way. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Alien crew members across the fleet lowered their weapons, many of them remembering their own young ones back home. The humans weren't just defending themselves, they were offering understanding and forgiveness. Commander Red staggered as the emotions hit him. What is this? Some kind of attack? No, sir, Officer Blue replied softly. This is what we should have done from the beginning. These humans, their children aren't just their weakness. They're their moral compass. Through their tablets, Tom and Annie added their own memories to the stream, playing in the park, family dinners, helping younger kids learn the defense systems, the joy of creating something new. Simple moments that showed the aliens what they had almost destroyed. In the command center, Jane watched as ship after ship stood down. The Federation fleet was experiencing something they had never encountered before: the pure, unfiltered hope and creativity of human children. To all Federation forces, she broadcast, her voice gentle but firm. Your commander made a mistake in thinking our children were our weakness. But we're offering you a chance to learn from that mistake. Your own families back home would want you to take it. Officer Blue stepped forward, officially taking command as other officers detained the now broken Commander Red. This is Acting Commander Blue of the Stellar Federation. We accept your offer. And we owe your children an apology. The energy patterns above Earth shifted one final time, forming a brilliant display of light and color, a celebration of life, hope, and the power of young minds to change the universe. Tom looked at his sister's tablet screen, where she was adding bright swirls of purple and gold to the global pattern. Think they learned their lesson? Annie grinned, adding a burst of sparkling stars to her design. Well, if they forget, we can always remind them. After all, we're pretty good at teaching grown-ups important stuff. In orbit, the Federation fleet began powering down their weapons. They had come to Earth expecting to find an easy target by threatening its children. Instead, those same children had taught them the most important lesson of all, that true strength comes not from weapons or technology, but from understanding, creativity, and the courage to offer peace even to those who meant you harm. 1 month after the Federation's failed attempt to capture Earth's children, Pine Creek had become an unexpected center of galactic diplomacy. The town's elementary school gymnasium, now converted into a meeting hall, hosted representatives from both Earth and the Stellar Federation. Tom and Annie sat with their parents in the front row, watching as Acting Commander Blue addressed the gathered crowd. His scales now shimmered with the peaceful green color that humans had learned meant sincerity and respect. One standard month ago, we came to Earth with profound ignorance, Blue began, his translated voice carrying clearly through the hall. We saw your children as a weakness to exploit. Instead, they showed us strength we never knew existed. In the weeks following the conflict, Earth's children had continued to amaze both humans and aliens alike. The energy manipulation techniques they had discovered through their games had revolutionized Federation science. Their ability to think beyond conventional boundaries had opened up entirely new fields of study. The Federation Council has officially recognized Earth as a protected world, Blue continued. Not because you need protection, but because we need your guidance. Your children have shown us a better way to explore the universe. Jane Miller, now Earth's chief ambassador to the Federation, stood up to speak next. We accept your friendship, she said, but with one condition: the Federation must create a new law. No civilization, no matter how advanced, may ever target children in any conflict. The gathered aliens nodded in agreement, many of them wearing the special badges designed by Earth's children, swirling patterns of color that represented the new partnership between their worlds. Tom leaned over to Annie and whispered, "Remember when we thought we were just playing games?" Annie smiled, holding up her tablet where she was designing new energy patterns to help Federation ships travel more efficiently. "We were never just playing. We were learning how to change the universe." In orbit, the Federation ships now carried crews of both aliens and humans. Earth's children had insisted that the ships be repainted with bright colors and patterns, a constant reminder of the lesson they had learned about underestimating the power of young minds. Commander Red, now standing trial for his actions, had been given an unusual punishment suggested by the children themselves. He would spend the next 10 years teaching alien children about the importance of understanding and respecting other cultures. His first lesson would always be about the day he learned that strength comes in many forms. "As part of our new partnership," Blue announced, "we invite Earth's children to help us redesign our approach to meeting new civilizations. Their creativity and compassion will ensure we never make the same mistakes again." The gymnasium erupted in applause as human and alien children demonstrated their latest project, a new type of ship shield that not only protected vessels but could display messages of peace in any language, created through the power of combined imagination and technology. Tom and Annie's parents squeezed their hands proudly. What had started as a terrifying night had transformed into humanity's greatest adventure. Their children, and all of Earth's young ones, had not only defended their world, they had made it better. And so, Blue concluded, his scales glowing brightly, "We thank Earth's children for teaching us the greatest lesson of all, that the universe's most powerful force isn't our weapons or our technology. It's the unlimited potential of young minds to imagine, create, and forgive." As the ceremony ended, Tom looked up at the sky through the gymnasium's windows. The stars seemed brighter now, full of promise and possibility. Thanks to one small town's brave kids, humanity had gained not just allies, but friends who understood a fundamental truth. Never underestimate the power of a child's imagination, it might just save the universe. And in basements across Pine Creek, the tablets and gaming systems that had helped save Earth remained ready, just in case. But now they displayed a new message on their startup screens. "Welcome to Earth Defense Network, where every child is a guardian of peace." The universe had learned its lesson. Earth's children weren't their weakness, they were humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy.